Hello everyone, welcome to the Scumdog's Kennel. I'm your host, Chris Williams, and in today's Cryptid Corner mini-episode, today we're looking at bizarre alien encounters, truly outlandish stories with alien beings from beyond. Either way, the first article we'll talk about with one of these bizarre accounts is Voices in the Night and Bizarre Prints Camping Near Flagstaff, Arizona. The couple in this account don't know if the beings that they encountered were demonic or alien, but it has all the earmarkings of both. Either way, let's get into the article now. The number of persons or creatures outside the tent increased, sounding like 30 to 40 in total. Occasionally, they heard a sound like whipping wind, accompanied by a yipping, barking noise that gave them the creeps. And that sets the tone of the story, folks. These beings did not make themselves known in any reasonable way, so the couple here couldn't tell what they actually were. Either way, this took place near Flagstaff, Arizona, May 1994, late night. Let's get into the full account now and hear what the experiencers, what they had to live through, folks, because it was truly harrowing. A couple was camping in an isolated pine forest during the chilly night. They built a campfire, but for some unknown reason, the fire kept failing. The woman felt uneasy and scared for no apparent reason as the temperature dropped. They sat in the car. Shortly thereafter, the woman noticed a bright star-like object above the tree line. The light moved from side to side and up and down. After about 20 minutes, they looked to the west and saw 5 more similar lights above the tree line. These appeared to be balls of light that danced around very quickly. As they watched, the original light descended behind the tree line. While observing the lights, a multicolored craft came out of the distant northwest sky. It flew at incredible speed and quickly vanished from sight. Becoming increasingly scared, both prayed. Soon the lights from the sky were gone, but an oblong bright white light illuminated the forest floor. Now, it sounds like this account is a typical, at least if you can call an encounter with a UFO typical, folks, but the fact that there are other things in the story that make you think otherwise is what's really telling here, folks, especially with the footprints that the couple found the next day and what their family said about the couple afterwards. Either way, this encounter is certainly very strange, folks. You have lights in the sky, like the typical lights that people describe as basically being, literally like someone basically took a big fireball and just flew it through the air. They couldn't basically make out details like if it was made of nuts and bolts, like basically a flying saucer, but literally they just saw these lights, and several different kinds of them as well. It makes me think that these smaller lights were probably drones to the actual bigger UFO or light that the couple saw. Either way, folks, that's just my idea. Let's finish off this article, and then we'll talk a little more about it before we, read the next story. They then took a shotgun and pistol and settled in the tent. Soon they heard what seemed to be people walking outside. They sat and listened to what sounded like 6 to 10 people walking in every direction, with occasional taps or prods against the tent. After an hour, a sound came over the tent, while simultaneously the ground beneath the tent floor moved like waves of energy. The woman looked up through the screened roof and saw a bright ball of blue light in the sky just above the tree line. From this light came a large white beam shining into the tent. The number of persons or creatures outside the tent increased, sounding like 30 to 40 in total. Occasionally, they heard a sound like whipping wind, accompanied by a yipping, barking noise that gave them the creeps. At one point, a pulsating orange-blue-white light glowed right next to the tent on the forest floor. It grew larger before disappearing. At daybreak, they left the tent and found strange footprints in the dirt and handprints on the dust of the car. The footprints were toed, cloven hoofs and larger 3-toed feet. The 4-fingered handprints had a skeletal, very long and thin look. Frightened, they left the area. Their families did not believe their story and claimed they were possessed. Source, witness statement by way of Albert S. Rosalius. So once again, we thank Albert S. Rosalius for basically, releasing this story, folks, for us all to basically learn about. Either way, folks, what is strange about this account is that, the couple did pray, and, with most accounts where people start praying with basically aliens, the aliens disappear, almost as if they were maybe demons pretending to be aliens. But here, they didn't disappear. But the fact that the footprints they found were cloven is usually testament to a demonic encounter, but the skeletal fingerprints they found is basically reminiscent of other alien encounters, folks. Either way, their families thought the two of them were possessed, so make of that what you will. Either way, folks, let's move on to the next story, and we'll come back to the original story after we read the next one. The next article is titled, Small Humanoids Ask, What Are Pizzas? In this account, folks, these two small, dwarfish or elfish beings have pizza, but they don't know what it is. And this is truly what it makes this account truly strange, folks, because it's like these people, these two small beings, didn't know even what human food was. Either way, let's get into the account by reading this brief blurb and then read the full story. Brian entertained a suspicion that his visitors may have literally been from another planet. I had read stories on the subject of aliens masquerading as human beings. This took place in a new town, Edinburgh, Scotland, 1990, late evening. A man named Brian Wilson was working the late shift one night at a local pizza parlor when a pair of rather small adults who had a somewhat lopsided look about them approached the counter, raised their right hands, and announced, "Hi, we're Americans." As if that's completely normal, folks. I mean, I know we Americans can be a bit dumb at times, but damn. This almost feels like they were literally acting here, folks. So make of that what you will. Maybe this was all a hoax, and Brian here thought that these two actors, who were maybe pranking him, were actual aliens. But that's just me, folks, and a theory. We'll talk about that a little more as we read through this article. Either way, let's continue Brian's story. "What would you like?" Brian asked them. They continued, "What do you make?" "Pizzas," replied Brian. That almost really feels very bizarre, doesn't it, folks? I mean, this guy, Brian here, thought probably these two people were complete loonies. Or if I was Brian, I would have thought that these two people were basically putting me on. Clearly, these two people would have seen that pizza was on the side of the building and would have known what pizzas are, unless they literally were from another planet. So the fact that these two beings asked if they taste nice would have put me on edge. I would basically be thinking, where did these two come from? Unless they basically spent their entire lives in a jungle somewhere on the planet, or were literally out of some far distant past or future, literally time travelers. I don't see how these two people could not know what pizza is. That's how bizarre this account sounds to me, folks. Either way, let's continue with Brian's story here. "What are pizzas?" inquired the supposed Americans. The couple watched Brian intently as he prepared 2 cheese and tomato pizzas, while the male kept looking around the shop like he'd never been in a pizza parlor before. Then the female pointed to a bowl of green peppers and asked what they were. By now, Brian's colleague, Doug, had also noticed that there was something rather odd about the pair, and the two chefs exchanged glances of disbelief as Brian carefully explained what pepper was. "Do they taste nice?" wondered the female. Once again, we have to ask, what was up with these two people? Are they actually on the level? If they really were aliens, folks, it would basically make this story make all the more sense. Either way, let's finish off this article and then talk about this article plus the one we read before. As the pair waited in silence for their pizzas, complete with green peppers to cook, other customers came in and out of the shop as usual. Once their order was ready, the extraordinary Americans settled their bill, each took a single bite out of their pizza, and then threw the remainder into the bin outside the shop. Brian entertained a suspicion that his visitors may have literally been from another planet. I had read stories on the subject of aliens masquerading as human beings. He told investigators these two individuals came across as acting as humans, but not doing a very good job of it. Source, UFO Scotland. And indeed, a truly bizarre account here, folks. What did Brian encounter here? Were these actually two alien beings? But the fact that they were so short as well, folks, makes me, think of fairies as well, folks, or at least creatures from fairy lore. These two beings sound like they're basically a combination of dwarves and literally elves as well. And the fact that these two small beings didn't know what human food like pizza was makes me think that literally they came from another world. Maybe they were interdimensional interlopers, or maybe literal alien beings from another planet. Either way, they were certainly not from around here, I would say. Either way, what do you make of it, folks? In the first account, the couple encountered these alien beings, but it has in this encounter all the earmarks of a demonic incursion or intrusion as well. The cloven hoof prints, the skeletal fingers could also basically be ascribed to demons, folks. But as I said, there have been instances of other alien encounters with skeletal fingerprints, and there was no feeling that demons might have been involved. Either way, folks, both accounts truly strange. But we're at the end, folks, so please go subscribe to my YouTube channel. Read comics, they're bad for you. Hit that like button for me. Make sure you're still subscribed. Leave some comments down below. Hit that bell for notifications. Make sure to hit the part of the bell that will give you all future notifications, and please share this video out. I'm Chris Williams from the Scumdogs Kennel. Thank you all for joining me. I'll be back again tomorrow with another great video, so be sure to come back again then. Till next time, folks, I'll see you all again soon.